Good afternoon, Cary Rotary Club. Welcome, welcome, welcome to a rare event, a fifth meeting of the month in the month of March. Fantastic. Does this feel special?
Oh, yeah.
It's a special group, very special group. Well, welcome everyone. Great to have everyone here in person and online for this late March meeting. I wonder if I could call on Camille, please, to lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Please join me in prayer. Let us pray silently together, each one of us according to our individual beliefs. Let us offer thanks for our food and the fellowship around us. Let us be a source of hope for those in need and contentment for those who are lonely. Let us give gratitude for our opportunity to serve as Rotarians. Amen.
Amen.
A pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America, and that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Camille, and thank you, everyone, for a fine voice today. Love to hear that. Jim Lovejoy,
Yes,
do we have some guests and visitors today?
actually, President Bob, we do, and I think you have one.
I do. Can I go first?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Privilege of rank. I want to introduce the club to Thomas Price. Thomas joins us as a new business owner in Cary, as a prospective member.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Welcome, Thomas. Thank you.
And also Dave Coulter, if he's here. Oh, there he is. You have a guest too, would you like to introduce?
Certainly. Ted Straub's joining us again for a couple times, and I think he's on a prospective member track too. So welcome again, Ted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
And we also have some speaking guests, and I think Charlie will introduce them at the time that we do the program. Is that okay, Charlie? Good.
Perfect. Welcome. Well, as Kathy Moore would well know, I've somehow got this thing about the last name Price. So Thomas Bell, thank you very much for joining us. I keep wanting to assign Price to everybody's last name. It's like some ubby-dubby language or something that I'm speaking. So I apologize, Thomas. My brain is not working well. Perhaps you all can help me with that later on. A couple of quick club announcements that I'll share. We want to welcome 3 new members, 2 of which are with us today. One of which is with us today, Aiden Jones. Brant Rubin and Ben Stevens have also been accepted as prospective members, and we'll have an induction ceremony for you all at an appropriate time. We're looking forward to having you with us. Thank you and welcome. Let's see. I wanted to, just for those of you that have hockey tickets and are going to the hockey game on Thursday night, some of you missed out. I talked about the fear of missing out a couple of weeks ago, but we've got a great group of 30 people that are heading to the game. For those of you that are on that list, you should, in your email box, be receiving a transfer of tickets from the master account. If you don't get those by this time tomorrow, please reach out to me and I'll make sure that they reach the destination. So both parking passes and tickets will be distributed electronically. Yes, sir, Bruce.
Did you forget that I have an extra ticket?
We have an open ticket. That's right. But you don't have to miss out. At the last minute, unfortunately, Bruce is not going to be able to join us. So if you have an interest at the last minute and want to join us, you're more than welcome to do so. Just come and see me or Eric or Don Finkbeiner.
Is there any carpooling happening?
There are a number of carpools under construction. I had you carpooling with Rod and I, but maybe I better check that information.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's fine. Where you gonna meet you? I hadn't heard anything from him.
It's 48 hours away, Ted, really.
We'll meet him inside.
Well, drive over to the arena. We'll meet you there. Yeah. All right, so we'll take care of that. David, you were sharing with me an update on Howard Manning. I wonder if you could update the club on that.
Howard's still in the hospital, he's still in ICU, but doing better. And so I think basically all we can do right now is just send him our prayers and best wishes.
So let's continue to do that. Seem to be working. God bless you. Howard.
Which hospital? Wake Man, Newburgh campus.
I should share with the club a letter that we received from the Salvation Army. You'll recall we raised a significant amount of funds during our bell ringing in this Christmas season. You're the reason the Salvation Army of Wake County, It Takes an Army campaign could celebrate another successful year. Including our generous donation, $1.7 million was raised between March 1st, 21 and February 28th of 22. That support and expand programs for people in need, like the largest homeless shelter in Wake County, caseworkers to fight human trafficking, virtual learning, community action, food pantry, soup kitchen, thrift store, and more. Thank you for your donation to aid the most vulnerable citizens of Wake County. The Salvation Army of Wake County is incredibly grateful for your support and leadership. Signed, Ernie Faulkner. So Ernie, thank you very much for that letter. Not to mention your leadership in keeping us involved with a critical support organization.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
Ernie Faulkner was the lead dog on that entire campaign for the Salvation Army. Not just our club liaison, but he put forth the effort and the energy to motivate that thing. So
Leadership. That's a miracle moment right there in and of itself. I want to celebrate that. Are there any others that we want to celebrate today? Camille.
I am excited, a little trepidatious to announce that I have told my community that I'm retiring August 1st.
Wow, congratulations. Rod, did you have your hand raised?
And that is all so that she can prepare to be president of our club.
It is
I want to say good Tar Heels.
Ah. Congratulations. Yep. Neil, there may be a counter.
Trying to make it. No pressure there. No, just wanted to say that the last two meetings I missed because Lori and I were able to finally cash in on the, I think, 2019 trip that we won at Life Experiences to Mexico. So last week while y'all were meeting, I was flying too, and this past week flying back from enjoyable, relaxing trip to Mexico.
Welcome. Welcome back. Congratulations. Any others here? Do we have any one that would like to share a moment online? Not today? All right. Well, I do want to share some wishes of good luck. Dr. Tom Brooks, who has consistently joined us online, has a long track record of perfect attendance, may not be with us next week because he's undergoing some surgery on April 4th, which I guess is next Monday. So if you'll join me in wishing Dr. Tom good luck. Go get him. I think he's probably the most eager of anybody to get that done based on some of the conversations I've had. All right, Tom, good luck. All right, well, with that, let me ask for one more item from Mr. Bill Fletcher. Thank you, Bill.
This club sponsors two honor a teacher candidates for the Wake County, for the Chamber of Commerce event. The teachers have been nominated and the nomination packages of those teachers are being put together. What we will receive next Monday is a package of information with a video, a philosophy of teaching, and the bio of each of 5 teachers from 2 schools. The club has the responsibility of reviewing those packages, ranking them, and coming up with a winner who would receive the $1,000 check at the chamber event in May. So I need some volunteers who will be willing to take about an hour, review the 5 packages from one of the 2 schools, and get that information back to me by next Monday. So I will distribute the materials on next Monday or Tuesday at the club meeting, and I need to get the information back within a week. So I need, ideally, I would love to have 10 people, so we could use 5 for each school or 4 for each school that could do that. So in here, I got Ernie, Leon, what are your names?
Price.
Tim, let's see, this table, okay, good, and that's 8, 9, 10.
Going.
Thank you, okay?
I'm 11.
You're a provisional, Jim. All right, Jim Lovejoy, quickly.
Yes.
I'm sorry to use your time.
As you know, it's springtime. It's time to order your Rotary shirts, especially the new members. We have nice dress shirts like this. You can see up close. I know you people at home, even though you're not working, you might, the Rotary at work is a great thing for our outside outings. Wear them to the meetings. I have a catalog here you can pick out. We have several colors, sizes, styles. Come see me after the meeting. If you're at home, send me an email and I'll get you the information.
Thank you, Jim.
No applause.
Jim Lovejoy, where the fashionable people shop. Dr. Charlie Mann, can I ask you to make introduction of our speakers today?
Dressed up.
Yeah, this is the note you noticed. When you introduce your wife, that's a little different scenario. And it's with pleasure that we have 3 visitors today. First, Beth, my wife, and Laura and Heather, and they're going to follow through. And, you know, it's distinctive in that, to tell about Beth, we are celebrating 30 years at Mann ENT this year. Well, next May will be 31 years, right? And we're blessed for that. And somebody said, let me get this straight. You work in the same office and you go home every night in the same. Yeah, how does that work? Well, I said, this is the way it works. I'm in charge of hearing. That's what this program is about, hearing. And if you have a hearing loss, they're not going to explain to you why you got your hearing loss. That's my job. And her job, this is the distinction, is the device you need or the method you need, or maybe an instrument, maybe not an instrument, but I turn it directly over there. And that's where we maintain that separation, and that's work for us now. And that's the way you work in the same office. You have your duties and responsibilities identified and separated. Beth is from West Virginia. So am I, from West Virginia. That's undergraduate, and I did medical there. And she is a Tar Heel. She came to Chapel Hill, studied audiology came to Duke. And I studied at Duke for 10 years before we set up our practice. So it's going to be an interesting game. So with that being said, you're going to learn about devices of hearing today, and it's a distinct pleasure for all three of these people to help you understand where your problems are. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the introduction. My name is Dr. Heather Mazzola. I am a clinical audiologist, and I actually work for one of the hearing aid manufacturers. We are called Signia. So just a little bit about me. I also went to Carolina. I received my doctorate from Carolina, so go Heels. And then I worked in ENT in clinic for about 5 years before I joined Signia about a year ago. And so my job is actually to help Laura and Beth learn more about Signia products and improve how they kind of deliver those products to patients. And that's just my adorable dog, and that's why you get to see him today, because he's pretty cute. His name is Max. But I love giving these presentations because I miss being in clinic. I don't get to see patients very often, so I love to come out and talk to you guys about hearing aids. But also, the last time I Googled hearing aids, I think there was 15,000 hits. So when you're trying to navigate this process and figure out, okay, do I even have a hearing loss? Do I need hearing aids? It's confusing. So this is really meant to be an information session for you guys. So I would love for it to be interactive. If you have questions, please, jump on in, raise your hand, whatever you want, because it is supposed to be kind of an information session for you guys. That's great. We already met everyone. So first we're going to kind of start with the basics. What is hearing loss? There are 3 types of hearing loss. By far the most common is called sensory neural, and that's just a big word for there's damage to your inner ear, to your nerve. There's no medication, there's no surgery that we can do to correct it. It's permanent. Some causes of sensory neural hearing loss are the natural normal aging process, genetics, noise exposure. The second is conductive hearing loss, and that's just a loss that occurs in your middle ear, so where your eardrum is and your tiny little middle ear bones. So a lot of times you might recall when you were in your childhood, you had an ear infection, and that might cause just a little bit of conductive hearing loss. The third is mixed hearing loss, and it's exactly what it sounds like, a mix of sensory neural and conductive together. So there's an issue in your middle ear and an issue to your nerve as well. Like I said, sensory neural is by far the most common, okay? All right, so now we're gonna talk about some kind of hot topics in the hearing loss and hearing aid world. The first is tinnitus. Tinnitus is actually, a lot of people tend to think ringing. It's actually any noise generated in your ear. Buzzing, humming, chirping, music, any of those are considered tinnitus. And if you call it tinnitus, that's totally fine too. Both work. And so, tinnitus is kind of a hot topic, number one, because it's actually the number one service connected benefit at the VA. And so the VA is currently pouring a ton of research into tinnitus to help us learn more about it. The issue is there's a lot of debate about, does tinnitus actually occur in the ear or does it occur in the brain? And a lot of the problem is studying the structures that we think generate tinnitus, it's just hard. Your inner ear is smaller than your pinky nail, and it's encased in bone. So studying that in someone who's alive is difficult, and we can't really ask a cadaver if they hear their tinnitus. So tinnitus is harder. A lot about what we know with tinnitus is kind of a hypothesis. So the general thinking with tinnitus is your auditory nerve, which is your connection between your ear and your brain. Parts of that nerve don't have a job because you have hearing loss. And so because your body is programmed to have a job, parts of the nerve that don't have a job, they make their own job and they start to generate ringing, humming, buzzing, which is unfortunate, but that's what we think is going on. And so actually the number one treatment for tinnitus is hearing aids, because the idea is We put hearing aids back on you. That nerve has back some of its stimulation, and it quiets down the tinnitus. Now, that being said, tinnitus is kind of a spectrum in terms of relief. Some of my tinnitus patients would say to me, well, Heather, my tinnitus is 90% better with my hearing aids. And then some of them would say to me, well, my tinnitus is better, but I still hear it every day. So it is kind of a spectrum there, and it's really difficult for us to kind of tell where you're going to fall on that spectrum. Anybody who tells you that there is a magic pill like the internet that's going to cure your tinnitus, there is no scientific research that shows that any type of vitamin or drug will do anything to cure tinnitus. The only treatment that has any evidence behind it through research is hearing aids. Any questions so far about anything we've talked about? Does anybody have tinnitus? Yeah. Sure.
Medication costs.
Yeah, and something to review either with your PCP or your GP. Definitely different medications can cause some tinnitus for sure. The next topic is kind of a big topic in terms of hearing loss and what the emerging research is telling us. So there is a definite link between hearing loss and cognitive decline. So when we talk about this, we're talking about untreated hearing loss. So people who definitely realize that they have a hearing loss and they don't do anything about it, you're actually putting yourself 2 times more at risk for developing dementia, even with a mild hearing loss. Okay. And so a lot of the conversation around hearing aids tends to come back to keeping your overall body healthy and your brain healthy. And so, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If you have some hearing loss and you're out in a social situation and you can't hear what's going on, it's pretty hard to be involved in the conversation. So over time, that starts to lead to isolation, which impacts your brain health. So even patients who would say to me, well, Heather, I don't notice my hearing loss in every situation, it was still a good idea and my recommendation for them to move forward with hearing aids to prevent any cognitive decline. Okay. I am going to pause there because that's usually when patients would always jump in with questions. So does anybody have any questions about cognitive decline and hearing loss? All right. Okay, so types of hearing aids. There are 2 main types of hearing aids, and you can see on the right is a custom hearing aid. All that means is it is Beth or Laura, whoever your hearing healthcare provider is, they would take an impression of your ear, and then the hearing aid is built for you. It's completely customized to your ear, and there are options that are completely invisible. Then the other type is something that sits behind the ear, much more kind of in style now. Because really all you can see there is the wire. Everything else sits back behind the ear. So those are the 2 main styles. Average life of hearing aids. It really depends on you. You can expect anywhere between 3 and 7 years of life from your hearing aids. It's probably not going to be your first and last set of hearing aids. I did have patients who had the same hearing aids for 10 years. And then I had patients who bought new hearing aids every 3 years. It just really depends on the user. Technology and hearing aids changes incredibly fast. So if you think about your cell phone, even from 5 years ago from today, they're completely different, and it's the same in the hearing aid world. So a lot of times patients who are getting new hearing aids more often, they were the patients who something had come out in the hearing aid world that they really wanted. It's not that their old hearing aids were broken, it's just they wanted a new feature. And then of course, wear and tear is going to come into this. You're wearing an electronic device for 10 to 14 hours a day on your body. So, the better you are about cleaning it and upkeep, the longer it's going to last. And then all hearing aids do come with a repair warranty. It kind of varies there. It can be anywhere from 2 to 4 years. It just depends on the clinic and the manufacturer that you decide on. Price, I think, is always a hot topic with hearing aids. Patients would always ask me about insurance coverage. Insurance coverage with hearing aids is definitely expanding. However, not every single company covers hearing aids. traditional Medicare does not cover hearing aids at all. A lot of supplemental plans now have hearing aid coverage, which is great. What I used to always tell my patients though is hearing aids are truly an investment in your quality of life. So if we're talking about our brain health, we really want to keep that brain nice and healthy and prevent cognitive decline. But also, the average set of hearing aids costs between $2,500 and $3,000. So if you do the math, that over a 4-year period is about $2 a day. So it kind of seems like a lot upfront, but it is something that over time, really, the math works out. It's not crazy expensive. Any questions about insurance coverage or price, cost? Yeah.
You just had a hearing test. And if you heard everything she said, it means that your hearing is par excellence. But if you didn't hear several of the words and you're missing the consonants. I sat back in that far corner for about 2 years, couldn't hear about half, and then all of a sudden, everything came through crystal clear. So you just had your hearing test done.
The other thing I wanted to mention about, yeah, go ahead.
In computers and things of that nature, the price comes down precipitously. In hearing aids, I have not seen that. In fact, my father wore hearing aids, and he could never get them adjusted, even though they cost a ton of money. In fact, he even traded them in with his car one time. He should have had them in his ears, but he didn't. Why, if we've got all this technology, don't hearing aids come down and then tell us about watching TV and it says, send us $39.95 and we'll fix your hearing tomorrow.
I was just going to talk about that. So I'll talk about that first. There is a ton on, and this is what I was talking about in the beginning. For consumers, it's just very hard because you see commercials, you see newspaper ads. There's just, the market's really saturated with advertisement. So the thing to remember is that not everything called a hearing aid is actually a hearing aid. So anything that you see Walmart or anything that's advertising something that's, I would say, $300 or less, it's an amplifier. Huge differences between a hearing aid and an amplifier. So let's think about a restaurant, because most people with hearing loss struggle in a restaurant. And let's say that you're eating in a restaurant and there's a good amount of background noise. An amplifier is going to turn everything up or everything down. So let's say that in this restaurant, you're having a hard time hearing and you have your amplifier on and you turn everything up. Do you think you're going to hear better? Because you're just going to turn all the background noise up as well. So hearing aids actually have computers inside of them, and they've gotten incredibly smart and can tell the difference between the target signal and the noise. Now, since it's a computer, it's not going to be good as a human at saying, okay, I want to just hear this person and nobody else. But we've come a really long way in terms of hearing aids and background noise. I used to have patients come in all the time who would bring in plastic bags full of amplifiers who they'd spent $2,000-$3,000 on, mail order stuff or stuff in Walmart, and they were finally ready for their first set of hearing aids. So I would caution you against doing that. You really do need to work with a professional. And that's the other thing. A lot of people would kind of say what your dad said. Well, my friend or my dad or my so-and-so had hearing aids and they never worked. And I want you to kind of help you understand is that the provider is the most important part when it comes to hearing aids. Let's say that I'm back in clinic and I order hearing aids for a patient. They come to me in a box completely blank. I have to tell the hearing aid to do everything. So your hearing aid can only be as smart as your provider. So you really do need to pick a provider who knows what they're doing. There are 2 people in the state of North Carolina who can fit you with hearing aids. One is a hearing aid dispenser. The other is an audiologist. I would just highly recommend that you go to Mann ENT, but find a provider who is an audiologist. You know, I went to school for a very long time to know a lot about hearing aids, and it is really important. I'm sure Beth's is very high, but my clinic had 98.5% of our patients bought their second hearing aids from us. So it's just very important. And I think a lot of the misconceptions come around people who see providers who are really just looking to sell you hearing aids. That's not Beth and Laura's job. It's part of their job, but their bottom line doesn't come down to hearing aid sales. Their bottom line comes down to how can I help you? So that's the big difference. And I think, you know, that's why you need to see somebody who really knows what they're doing.
But you still didn't answer.
I was going to say, there was one more. Tell me again. Oh, why it hasn't come down. You know, I think a lot of that has to do with hearing aid coverage and insurance. I do think, so there is a bill, I don't know where it is in terms of legislation, but I know that Medicare, traditional Medicare, so not a supplement plan, is considering hearing aid coverage. And a lot of that is coming from the research that's showing dementia and untreated hearing loss are linked. So from the government's perspective, it's a lot cheaper to pay for hearing aids than to pay for the care for a dementia patient. So I do think that would drive down costs, but again, right now, it's just kind of up to the manufacturers, and the market, like you said, really hasn't changed. Do I think that they're an investment that's worth it? Of course, because it's going to help you hear, but also keep your brain nice and healthy. But do I know when hearing aid prices are going to come down? No. Okay. Wow, that was a little tangent. I feel like I got off on. Anybody else have any other questions about that? No? Okay. All right. So there are 6 major hearing aid manufacturers. They're all great companies. I just happened to work for Signia. It was the manufacturer that I worked with the most in clinic, and I really liked Signia's mission. But our latest technology is a little bit different than everyone else in that we actually have 2 processors within our newest hearing aids. And kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. One processor is dedicated to speech that you want to hear, and the other is dedicated to noise. And so no other hearing aid has that. Everybody else is just doing that on one-track processing. And then all of the new research is showing that clinically it's very significant for patients who are in a noisy situation, because that's where most people with hearing loss really struggle, is in a situation where there's a lot of noise. We're going to skip through a little bit of this so we don't take up all your time. A lot of questions always come around, will hearing aids work with my phone? Newer hearing aids do work with phones. Dr. Mann was just talking to me about how he sometimes will log into the Zoom for this meeting and stream it to his hearing aids so he can hear it nice and loud. So that's a newer feature, and it's all new hearing aids will work with an iPhone. Some hearing aids will work with an Android. We're still kind of working on the Android market, but it's a cool feature that patients really like. And these are what our hearing aids look like, the behind the ear style. They are rechargeable, which is a newer kind of function that a lot of patients like. You no longer have to change a battery all the time. They have really long battery lives, which is pretty cool. So our new hearing aids have trend at 39 hours of battery life. So you're definitely going to get a full day, which is important for a lot of patients. And then these are the chargers, what they look like. We have a variety of chargers. Patients always want to know about that. So we do have a portable charger, so you do not have to plug it in, and it does hold 3 days of charging. And then we have smaller ones if that's your preference. We also still do have battery-driven devices because some patients still would like battery-driven hearing aids. And then this is our newest kind of brainchild. It is a custom hearing aid that is also rechargeable. So we've been working on this for quite a while, and it was kind of difficult to figure out how we were going to make a custom hearing aid rechargeable, because every single custom hearing aid looks different because it's built for each patient's ear. So this came out in October, and patients have really been loving it. It just pops down in the charger like that, and you're getting about 24 hours of battery life off of a charge. what it looks like. There's no contacts on it. It's pretty sleek and it's been doing really well because a lot of patients have not wanted something behind their ear with glasses and masks. And then this is the app that we have. I really like our app because it's kind of like having Beth or Laura in your pocket. You can actually in live time, not when you're in their office, tell the app that you're having problems. And the app will make changes to your hearing aid programming in live time for you. So it's pretty cool new technology. Yeah.
So clearly you've solved many of the problems I'm gonna ask you about. But when my dad had them,
Yeah.
they were difficult to adjust. And he had big fingers and clumsy. And so
Yeah.
the ability to adjust them is an issue. And I want to ask how you saw some of it, how you keep them improving.
Yeah, so lots of patients have dexterity issues, just poor feeling in their fingertips. And so, like you said, it makes little buttons hard. There are a ton of options now. There's remote controls. So if you like, having something in your pocket where you can control hearing aids, that's definitely an option. But pretty much everybody now chooses to use the app to adjust their hearing aids. Hearing aids, though, if you have a good provider, are really meant to be put on and forgotten about. All of these things that we're talking about are just kind of additional features. Maybe you're the type of person where you want to have a lot of control over your hearing aids, but for the most part, patients do really just put them on and they're meant for you to kind of forget about them. But lots of options for patients who have issues with small buttons.
Earplugs, can it be used for music? That's kind of a contradiction because it gets loud.
Yeah, do you mean, can you stream music to the hearing aids?
Right, beyond that, they'll get it up to like, bass.
Yeah, so music historically with hearing aids hasn't been great because with music, there are a lot of soft sounds that really add to the richness and the quality of music. But for a hearing aid environment like this, soft sounds are like, I can hear a little bit of the kitchen noise in here and maybe like the hum of the air conditioner. So the hearing aid would actually try to get that out for you because that's not really adding anything to your speech understanding. So a lot of newer hearing aids have music programs where all of those additional features are turned off so you can really enjoy music. Yeah, the richness is added back. Yeah, we've come a long way with hearing aids and music because it used to be bad. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Is it true that if you have a hearing aid, that your hearing loss will decrease less rapidly?
No, I wish. So patients would always ask me, well, Heather, how bad is this going to get? And it's a great question, but it's a hard question to answer because your hearing health is really tied to your heart health because your inner ear has a lot of vascularized blood that goes to it. So if you were to have a heart attack or a TIA or a stroke and we kind of cut off the blood to the inner ear, that would really impact your hearing. And so I can't predict that. And it's hard even for your cardiologist to predict that. A lot goes into it, genetics, kind of your overall body composition, your noise exposure. We expect a slow decline over time as part of the natural aging process, but wearing hearing aids does not prevent that natural process from happening. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to be more unusual because it's very lightweight and you don't know what it is today.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that you're unusual. Patients definitely sometimes struggle with retention. So keeping the aids on the ear, to me, that is really something that your provider should work with you about because I didn't have that issue as a provider. Retention is one of our #1 goals when we're in our trial period because I don't want you walking out the door with a hearing aid that's going to fall on the ground. That doesn't serve our purpose. Just a few comments around that. If that does happen, most hearing aids come with a loss and damage warranty. So if you do lose it, you can have the hearing aid replaced under the warranty. But no, I would say that is something that your provider should work on you with to make sure that you have really secure fitting hearing aids. Go ahead.
Heather, with your physician hat on now, what is some advice you could share with us about how to protect our hearing?
Yeah.
And reduce this hearing loss?
Great question. Yeah, so any situation where you feel like, ooh, that's a little loud, always, always, always wear hearing protection. Like I said, hearing loss is a normal, natural part of the aging process, but you can definitely make it worse with noise exposure. So, we would always recommend, I always have hearing protection in my purse. I think there are lots of situations where I'm like, oh, I really can put on some noise protection. Beth and Laura also can offer you guys, they're called musicians earplugs, and they're the ones that I keep with me all the time because they actually have a filter in them that keeps the integrity of speech. So I can still hear everything that's going on in this room. It's just all brought down. And so they're, I don't know how much you guys charge for them. They're a little bit expensive. Yeah, they're not cheap, but I really like them. But a traditional muff or plug is great as well. Just with earplugs, what I always see patients doing is if I am looking at you straight on and you're wearing earplugs, I should not be able to see them. So what everybody's doing is kind of putting them 25% of the way in, and they're not really doing anything. So you really need a nice deep fit with an earplug, and with a lot of patients' anatomy, they're just not going to get those in far enough. So sometimes muffs are a better option. Sure.
My wife says sometimes I have selective hearing.
I've never heard that one. Yeah. I would say it's time to see Beth and Laura for a hearing test. So I think to that point, even if you feel like, hey, Heather, I maybe struggle like every other day, but it's not all the time, you really should get a baseline. Even if you think I'm not quite ready for hearing aids yet, that will let Beth and Laura know where you started. And then we kind of have a better trajectory of how quickly your hearing loss is progressing. Okay, so you need a baseline at the very least. Go ahead.
In conjunction with what Paul just said, do you have anything that would help me to hear my wife down in the kitchen when I'm upstairs?
Yeah, I used to tell patients that I felt like during my curriculum for my doctorate, they needed marriage counseling because I could tell your wife 100 times, these don't give him bionic hearing, and she's still gonna call I even do it. So sorry. Go ahead.
My doctor during my regular GP just has a 3-tone ear test. I can't imagine that's very effective to determine anything.
Yeah, I don't love that. No, I think that's a giving him an idea of whether or not you're deaf, but for a mild hearing loss, he's not going to be able to differentiate that. So I would still say, just get a baseline. It's not going to hurt anything, and knowledge is power.
How long would a baseline be good for?
I would say you need to get tested. It depends on your age, but I would say for me, about yearly if you have a hearing loss, we need to track it yearly. If you have normal hearing, you can probably go about every 5 years.
My children have said out there for a long time.
Your annual. Well, Heather, thank you so much for your program. It was very helpful. I think all of us have people in our lives that will benefit from this conversation, and we will be taking it back for them. I do want to share with you some note cards from Jerry Miller. He's our resident artist. He's not here today, I don't think, right? No. So enjoy those, and thank you so much. And Beth and Laura, thank you too. Good to see you.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you to Mann ENT for bringing Heather to us today. I think that it seems to me that ever-growing percentage of the population is in need of some assisted hearing. I don't know, it might be because I'm traveling in a different subset of the population than I used to, but having this knowledge is really important to us. So thank you very much.
Mr. Fred.
Yes, sir.
One thing that she didn't address that probably should have done, all of these people walking around with music in their ears, and they come by my house walking, and I can hear the music that I'm in the yard.
Too loud. Too loud.
Are we not going to destroy the hearing of our younger generation? Is that not a problem?
So So they've done research on it actually, and so OSHA is the kind of governing body who would look at that. And so the recommendation for any like children or preteens is to not have the volume above halfway on the iPhone. Anything above that can cause some hearing damage. But yeah, I'm with you, and they're gonna be your patients in a couple of years. Like I said, noise exposure, you can definitely cause hearing loss with that.
Great. So thank you very much. I find that
Who stole his notes?
I don't know. I find that my notes are no longer here, so I don't know what to do. This meeting will now go on forever. I do know that we have some birthdays and anniversaries, and so I'm going to be in trouble trying to remember, do them from memory. But Travis Colopy was celebrating an anniversary with the club this week. I believe it was 8 years. Tim Mannix on April 1st, I believe, is also celebrating an anniversary with the club, upwards of 20 years.
26.
26. And there was one other member that was celebrating. Who? Tell me who's joined on April 1st. It was one other. I'll get you next time. Ron.
Paul's one.
Paul, yeah, was it Paul? Go ahead, Doctor.
Now, Beth reminded me on the way out, that's one of your bags, goodie bag. There's a pen in there, some information and further information on hearing, so pick one up and leave.
Great. Also, Ron has a special person in his life that's celebrating a birthday this week, if I understand correctly. So don't forget, Ron, to wish you a happy birthday. Next week, Lynn Mingus, who's the CEO of the North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association, will be with us for a program. Thank you, David. And if this is great, because I get to make a real shot at what lunch is: chicken marsala. President's choice. No, chicken marsala. The speaker the week after Lynn is to be announced. I can't remember that out this night.
That's okay.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being with us, most especially Ted, Straub, Thomas Bell. Thank you for joining us. Aiden, congratulations on your membership. Thank you to all of our members, Camille, Kristen, Dr. Mann, Mr. Mannix, who served as greeters and helped us over the course of today. Thank you so much for everything that you do to serve our club. And I will call on Eric Schmidt to lead us out on the four-way test.
The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
We are adjourned.